Hi, how are you? So in today's video, we are going to be covering how to introduce a performance task. So we're really looking at how to introduce these tasks with the end in mind so the students have an idea of where we're going throughout this entire process. So in this performance test, we're going to be looking at exactly what the students are going to be doing. So throughout the performance test, there's different things to do each day. They can be broken up in multiple days. You could break it up even smaller. We're going to get into that moving forward a little bit, but right now we're just looking at what are the kids actually going to have to do. So for this test, what the kids are doing, and one of the coolest part of performance tests is the kids are actually able to take on a role throughout the process. So it says you are the chief scientific officer at a botanical biopharma corporation, a company that develops and manufactures drugs that are based on compounds isolated from rare plants. So the kids are going to actually pretend they're a chief scientific officer. And what they're going to be doing is they're going to be looking to find a way to produce Curol, which is again linked to the relationship and biodiversity lab. So this whole performance test is kind of isolated around that lab, but it gives a little bit more information and it's a little bit more centered as we go through it. So there's two possible solutions for the students to look at. So they have either solution 1, which is identify an alternative source in nature, or 2, use biotechnology to artificially manufacture Curol. So the kids are going to have to decide which solution they want to commit to. And then what they're going to be doing is they're going to be writing an email to the board of directors in order to determine which way they think is the best way to produce Curol. So when you introduce a performance test with your students, it's important to get them excited about the project. So we like to give them the task and what they're going to end up doing first. So I like to read them the task, their possible solutions, and then what they're going to have to end up doing, which is this main email. This actually gets them interested. It gets them kind of in that mindset to pretend that they're in this position as they go through this entire performance task. So once they're introduced, I think it's really important to point out that each day you're going to be getting a little bit more information that they shouldn't have to necessarily decide on an answer right away. So after we go through the task with the students and we give them their solutions and their final, I like to do a quick skim through of kind of what the days might look like. Really not bogging down on the exact what they're going to have to do, but really just looking at kind of the overall part. So we're going to be looking at a question. We're going to be making a hypothesis. We're going to be looking at different tests that we're going to have to do to start making a decision. We're going to be looking at genetics. So again, these are more tests for the labs we're going to be doing. We're going to have some interesting questions about biotechnology. And then finally, we're going to start working on our scientific explanation and begin to, again, craft our claim using our evidence and scientific reasoning, which is going to be useful when we go ahead and we write our email. So it's really important that you get them excited and then show them that there's multiple parts. So we're going to keep going back to this performance task as we learn new information to help us pick our solution. So it's important that they know there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer. It's important that they know what their final task is, and it's important that they know that each day they're going to be getting a new piece of information. So their decision might change based on the day that the material you're learning. I know one of the biggest concerns I had with being remote was how to complete these labs. This one in particular is probably one of the labs that has the most materials that are used. So this one was really one that was kind of concerning on how are we possibly going to get this state lab done. So what we did is we included images of the results in the Teach Hub lessons. So you'll notice in this lesson, this one says test 2. We also have test 3. So in the slides, you'll see images that'll have all the answers that the kids need to be able to make an observation and pull them out. So you'll see the seed structure is test 2. We gave you images of the seeds where the kids can pull observations. Test 3 is our microscope, and they'll be able to do some observations. You could also have them, again, if you wanted to have them draw this, whether they're on their iPad or whether they're on their computers. In the previous lab, mitosis lab that we did, we showed you a couple different ways how to use drawing features on both the computer and the iPad. So make sure if you want to do a drawing option, you go back and take a look at that video. So the last thing we're going to look at is actually how to help the students go ahead, get an explanation, and write their email that needs to be written. So one thing we really like are these pre-writing exercise, where it really breaks down each step, especially if this is the first time you've had the students do it. So there's a nice little graphic organizer, looks at their evidence, their claim that they're making, their concepts, and scientific reasoning, brainstorming, because so therefore, and it actually helps put it together for them. So this is one that I really like. And then the second one kind of helps take their information and kind of develop it more into an actual written piece rather than a bunch of different graphic organizer sections. It actually helps put it together for them. And then finally, what they're going to be doing is they're going to be looking at, this is again part of their 2 techniques for biotechnology. So again, this kind of takes another scaffold out where it takes their equation out of it, and it just allows them to get to the writing part. And then they're going to have to draft their email. So it's important when they're drafting an email that you do actually teach them some of the concepts of writing a good professional email, how to start an email off, how to end an email off, what kind of language do you want to use when you're writing a professional email versus like an essay or scholarly article. And then you're going to be looking at the different components. So the 2 pieces that you see here, this one and this one, are done in the pre-writing. So this is the parts where the students are actually going to have to put their information together. They did a lot of this already in their pre-writing. They kind of just have to put it together, again, into a cohesive email, and they're going to have to be able to pick a solution. So remember to bring them back to the top, and they're going to be looking at which of the 2 solutions, either identifying an source, an alternative source, or using biotechnology. So they're going to have to give information on both and then pick a choice and decide which one they think is best.